Okay, so in this lesson we're going to go ahead and implement the rest of the functionality for this little to-do app that we have been working on. Now, we've got these filters here, and ideally when I click on all, so obviously that should give me the list of to-dos, and when I click on active, then I should only get the active to-dos. Completed would mean I get only finished to-dos or completed to-dos. I should also get the count of to-dos here. And then when I click on clear completed, so that would go ahead and remove these completed to-dos from the list of to-dos, right? Lots of to-dos there. And then finally we have this toggle all. And what it does is basically it enables us to toggle the status for all to-do items in the list, right? So it's a checkbox, and it's been styled with the CSS, right? Okay, so let's go to our code editor. And let's have a quick look. So we are really interested in the completed property of to-do item, right? And if we scroll down, we've got this toggle component that we extracted out. That's great, because then we can just go into the relevant component and do what we need to do, right? Okay, so again, we are going to be passing function as a prop down to toggle all component. So I would say handle toggle all, and that's going to be a function. So we are going to be accepting the, okay, so let's for now console log, and we'll say checked value. Okay, so now if I go to toggle, and here we are going to be expecting on toggle all. Did we pass function as a prop? I think we didn't, so let's go back and let's scroll down right here. And we will say toggle on toggle all. It will be handle toggle all. And because we are in a class component, so we need to have this. The editor is helping me out, which is nice. So if I go back to now toggle, so let's see. Basically, what we want to do, let me show you something. So if I come here and I say checked is equal to true, or you can say checked is equal to checked, right? And go back to the browser, you can actually see the color of this checkbox turning into dark gray. Okay, don't worry about these errors, we're going to fix them. So that's what we are going to do. And remember, we've already worked with the checkbox earlier on, so that makes it easier for us. So let me just put everything on its own line so that it becomes a bit more readable. Okay, and we are going to have a piece of state here, right? And basically that's how we're going to track the checkbox value. If I say use status, the editor is going to help me complete it. Yep. And say toggle, maybe set toggle. I think we can live with that. So the initial value is going to be false, and we need to import the state, use state from React, and that's the hook, right? React hook. So if I come down now here, I can say that the initial value is going to be checked, is going to be bound to toggle, but if there is a change, then we will have some function. Okay, and let's say handle toggle all. Okay, we will then create a function, and that's going to be handle toggle all. That will accept an event. That means we can now get the value out of it, so I'll just call it checked value, right? And that's going to be e.target.checked, so that should give us the value that we need. The first thing we will do is we will call set toggle so that we can set the right value on the toggle itself, right? So let's do that. And then after this, we will call on toggle all prop, which came down from the parent component, the app, right? And we will just pass the checked value there. So if I now go back to app.js, and we are here, okay, so we are console logging the value. So let's have a look. If I refresh, and if I check true, false. Brilliant. So all we need to do here is we just need to get the to-dos, okay? and that would be this dot state dot to-dos. Once we have to-dos, then we just map over them, and we will have a to-do there, and then we will basically say to-do dot completed is equal to whatever value came in, and then we will just set the state. Okay, and I think that should do it. So if we go back to the browser, let's refresh and click. So now everything is completed. If I uncheck, then everything is active. Okay, let's now move on to these filters. So I can see that we need the count of active items here, right? And I should be able to filter these to-dos by clicking on one of these filters. So let's go back to the editor, and we've got this footer component. Remember when we extracted out, all these filters live in the footer. So we need to pass a function, right? So that app.js, or this parent component, is able to respond to a filter change. So what I can do is I can say on our handle filter, and it will accept a filter, right? And for now, we will just console log filter. Okay, and that means I can come down here and I can say on handle filter is this dot handle filter. Great. If I go to the footer.js file there, I can destructure on handle filter, and here's what we're going to do. We're not going to be having any state here because we don't really need it. All we need is somehow pass a filter to the parent component. So that means what I could do here is I can listen for on-click event, okay, and that way I can pass a function here, and we will define a function, let's call it handle filter, okay, and we will pass it a parameter of all. Okay, so let's define this function here, handle filter, and that's going to be constant. Okay, so const handle filter, and then we will get a filter here. Okay, and all we need to do is pass it on to parent, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so we need to make sure that these functions are the same, so I'll just copy paste. Okay, and here the filter is going to be active, here it's going to be completed, and here it's going to be clear. Okay, so now if I come back to the browser and I say give me all, so that's going to go give me all to-dos, then active to-dos, completed to-dos, and clear. Great. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. In the app component here, we are going to have a filter as a piece of state, and we will default it to all. Okay, now once we receive the filter, we can simply go ahead, set the state. Okay, and that should do it. So now that we have a filter in the state, what we can do is, before we pass these to-do items here, right, we can just filter them out. So what I mean is, let's just create a function and let's call them filtered to-dos, right? And it's not going to accept any argument. It will listen for the filter change on the state and then filter the to-do items accordingly, right? Okay, so let's start writing a code and it will make more sense. So what we need to do first is let's get the filter. So const filter, in fact I will use the destructuring here, this dot state, and then make some decision on the basis of this filter. So if it is all, and default should be the same because we want to return all to do items here. So I will say return this dot state dot to do's. Okay. However, if the filter is active, well, in that case, we can do return this dot state dot to do's dot filter, and we will get to do here. So we can say as long as to do completed is true. So that will basically mean that all active to-dos can be returned here. Okay, so let's copy this and paste one more time here. And if the filter is completed, then we want to return to do items which has completed status of false. Okay, and if I go ahead and format this document a little, okay, so now that we have this function defined, what I can do here is I can just call that function. Okay, and it will be something like this, filtered to-dos, and we are going to just call the function. So that's, when you don't specify the parentheses, you're not calling the function, but rather leaving it to be executed later on. That's what we've been doing here, right? But in this case, we just want to filter the to-do item, so I will put the parentheses there. So now if I come back, and with any luck, let's add some to-do. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I want active to-dos. Okay, so I think we've got the logic the wrong way around, right? We got ourselves confused. So when it is active, then I want the to-do items which has a status of false. Otherwise, when it's completed, then true. Okay, one more time. So add one more, and let's say active, yep, completed, all. So the only filter which is left is clear completed. With clear completed, at the moment we can just filter to-dos and return to-dos which are basically active, right? Something like this. Because we could delete the items from array, and by deleting I mean that using the splice function in JavaScript, which let you remove items in an array at certain index, right? But that would mean that we would need to mutate the state, and that's not something that React encourages you, right? The state needs to be immutable. So what we can do here is basically when we say active, we can also have a condition for case case clear, and for now it's okay just to return or filter the completed to-dos item from the list. So now if I say clear, let's just think that the completed items were deleted. We are going to be using the backend service later on. Okay, so we will be calling the API endpoint for that. For now, I think we are okay with that. I'm happy with what we have now. Okay, so let's get the count for the active items, and again, that's going to be quite easy. So we can define a function, but if you don't want, you can just do it in line. I will define a function, and all it needs to do is return this dot state dot filter, and we are interested in to do items which has a status of false. So these are our, and then we will get the length. So these are active items, right? Then we can pass it on as a prop here. So we will say count is equal to this dot get count, right? And we will just call it as a function. Great, so if we go back to now footer, and we can get the count prop, and we just need to display it. That's pretty much it. So if I display it here and then go back to the browser, oops, let's see. Okay, this .state.filter is not a function, so we've got an error. If I go back, I think I know what the error is. Yep, we just need to be filtering to-dos, not the state directly. So now if I come back, and here we go. So if I add another to-do, and the count goes to 2. If I say 3, 4, yep. And if I toggle all, 0 items left, we've got 6 items. You can delete, completed, active. So seems like everything is working as expected. We have been able to finish this to-do app using props drilling. The next step for us is going to be looking at Redux and how we would implement the same solution or the same functionalities for this to-dos app, but using Redux. Okay, I will see you guys in the next video.